Hey everybody, it's Kate, the West Coast Paper Crafter, and you are joining me for project number 2 of our More Than Autumn class. This is the project that we're going to be making. I'm just going to go through all the measurements with you before we get started. So if you don't have this bundle, the stamp set and the dies, use whatever you have in your stash. We're starting out with a Cajun Craze card base. Now this is just 5.5 by 8.5, and I've scored and folded it at 4 1/4 on the 8.5 inch side. Then we've got 2 pieces of basic white. These are both 5 1/4 by 4. One will be for the outside, the other will be for the inside. I've got a piece of designer series paper from the Iconic Celebrations pack. This is 5 1/4 by 4. And these are die cuts using the nested essential dies. Now, if you don't have this die set, the Cajun Craze rectangle is 2 3/4 by 2 1/4. And the basic white is 2.5 by 2. All right, so we will get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to adhere this strip of pattern paper onto one of the basic white pieces. So to do that, I'm just going to grab my Stampin' Seal, and I'm using my silicone mat because it works really good to catch the Stampin' Seal and get it rolling really easily. Then what I need to do is just glue that down. I'm just adjusting my computer while I do that. Sorry, I have left my volume on accidentally, so I was hearing myself. All right, so now this I'm just going to put not quite in the middle, more like 2/3 of the way down this white piece of paper. And the reason I'm using Stampin' Seal instead of my liquid glue is I'm going to emboss this piece now with the Forever Plaid 3D embossing folder. So I'm just going to pop this into the folder, and I'm putting the pattern side on the well, I don't know if this is, if I want to call it the back side, but on the side where it's got the little label for Stampin' Up versus the image, right? So this way it embosses slightly different, but it's totally your preference. So this way it's going to push in all my little lines versus pop them up, and I prefer that, but you can do it however you like. So I know there's a word for it, and I just can't remember what it is. So I'm just going to run this through my embossing machine. It's just at the side of my desk, otherwise it's going to shake the camera while I'm rolling it. But it just takes a second. All right, so now we've got our layer all embossed, and this little designer series paper piece is embossed as well, and you can see that this is the side where the little Stampin' Up symbol is, and all the lines are raised up. But I've done it on the back side where it's just that little, I don't know what that's called, but it's just the words, and it just, all the little lines are indented versus pushed up. So that's totally up to you, it's your preference, but that's how I like it for this card. So now this piece is just going to be glued on top of the front layer of the card. So I'm going to use my Tombow glue for that, but you can use whatever you prefer. All right, so this goes down right on the card front, like so. And once I have it exactly where I want it, I'm just pushing down to get that glue to get tacky and to stick. All right, perfect. So now for my inside piece, that's just going to get glued down, and I am in a landscape well, this card is landscape versus portrait, so I just want to make sure, I'm going to stamp a little image in the corner here, and I want to make sure it's going to be landscape versus portrait. So sometimes that's kind of my biggest, one of my most common mistakes is I forget if I'm in landscape and I'll stamp a little image in the right corner as if it was actually a portrait card, but not today. Okay, so I've stamped a little apple. I have got a Poppy Parade blend. Just going to color the apple in. And I'm using the bullet tip because it's a small image. And then I've got a little, what is this one? This is my light Granny Apple Green, and I'm going to color in that stem. And then I'm going to glue this down to the inside of the card. Oops. Okay, so same thing, I'm just going to line it up. And once I have it where I like it, then I'm going to give it a little bit of pressure and let that glue stick. All right, so here's what we got so far, the front of our card and the inside. Now, if you were my customer in September, I've mailed you out these card kits and you don't have to worry about this embossing piece. I've done that for you just in case you didn't have the Forever Plaid embossing folder. Now, I'm going to stamp a sentiment in the top right of this little white die cut. And I'm using Cajun Craze ink and sentiments from the More Than Autumn stamp set. And I'm just going to stamp that in the top right corner. And get my ink pad out of the way because I don't need this one anymore. Alright, so this will be glued right onto the Cajun Craze rectangle, but I'm going to set that aside for a second. It's a dark color and sometimes I find they smudge, so I just want to give that one little second to dry before I glue it down. And in the meantime, I'm going to stamp a few images, a coffee cup, and these are all stamps from the More Than Autumn stamp set. Now I'm doing a pumpkin pie and a whipped cream for the coffee, well, the latte, and then I'm going to stamp a little apple right on that coffee sleeve. All right, so for coloring these in, I'm going to use light crumb cake for the actual coffee cup. I'll leave the sleeve white and I'll color in the apple with Poppy Parade and Granny Apple Green. The pie I will do in my dark pumpkin pie Stampin' Blend, and then the pie crust I'm going to use the light pecan pie. So if you are stamping along, you'll want to color in your images and then either die cut them with the More Than Autumn dies or fussy cut them. So I've already gone ahead and colored some of these images and die cut them out. So go ahead and pause me if you are working along with me so you can get your images stamped, colored, and cut. And once you're ready to go, just hit play and we'll get going again. So now that I've cut out all those images, what I'm going to do is glue this white rectangle into the middle of my Cajun Craze rectangle. And then I want to add my whipped cream to the top of this coffee cup. And I think I'm just going to use a little bit of tear and tape right at the edge of the coffee cup to stick down that whipped cream. Yeah, just a little edge and then it'll catch it. All right, so I've got that on. And then I'm going to layer my coffee cup and this little piece of pumpkin pie right onto this sentiment layer. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue. I don't need too much. And I know that my whipped cream is going to hang over the edge a little bit, so I don't have any glue on that. And then the pumpkin pie I'm just going to put down like so. And the very edge of the pumpkin pie might overlap, so I'm just not going to put any glue there. All right, so now what I want to do is just pop this up on the front of the card. I'm going to add some dimensionals to the top. That should be good. And then this is going to go just over top of that strip of pattern paper that we embossed into the basic white. All right, now these little leaves I cut out from the More Than Autumn die set, and I used some adhesive backing to make these into a little sticker. So they're really delicate, and the inside of the leaf isn't connected. So you can fuss around if you prefer the inside of the leaf to be part of your card, then you can fuss around and get that to work. But I'm just going to peel off that outside part of the leaf. It's very easy. It's harder to keep that inside part in. And then I'm just going to use the outline of these leaves on the card. So you can certainly use your liquid glue for these dies, but I find the adhesive backing really easy to apply them because they're just so delicate. They're so delicate, you need either a take your pick tool or a little bit of nail to pull that adhesive backing off these leaves. All right, I have one more. So I cut the leaves out in crushed curry, pumpkin pie, and Cajun Craze. And if you were my customer in September, then I have gone ahead and die cut out these leaves for you, and they'll be in your card kits. That should be coming to you shortly if I've mailed them, and some of you may already have them if I've seen you in person. All right, so now I've got the leaves on the card, and the last thing I want to do is just add some of these faux glass dots, and this card is done. Just adding 3 in random places wherever I think they'll look good. But you can bling your card as much as you like. All right, that is card number 2. I hope you liked it, and stay tuned for our third and final project.